Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. My guest today is Jonathan Wavell. He hails from Southern California, but he's currently elsewhere in the world. He has been going to conventions for years, but has only started cosplaying in 2013. However, he makes a fantastic Captain America, and he loves to get involved with different groups that are out there in the cosplay community. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Jonathan.
Well, thank you very much for having me, David. I'm very happy to have a chance to talk about geek culture with someone who's very anxious and very involved with it.
Absolutely. And I have to first say thank you to my guest back in episode 5, Andie Jay. She actually is the one who arranged us to get together and talk about stuff.
Yes, she's a really amazing friend and cosplayer. Right, getting the privilege of meeting so many conventions back in San Diego. But she's very active, huge geek, very friendly, and just all around awesome person to talk with. So it must have been a great time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, doing this podcast, one of the side benefits of, besides like actually getting to talk to people, is getting to start building like really cool friendships with some of the people that I've talked to. And Andie's just one of those who, like, since I've spoken with her, she'll Facebook message me and I'll send her messages, and it's just really cool to like start building these friendships where I would never have talked to the people before doing this.
Honestly, that's why I love the geek community. You can find those little niches in here, but it's a very big unifying thing. If people focus more on that than the divisive portions or the differences, it's a lot bigger community if we let it be.
Absolutely. So, what is fandom to you?
Well, to me, fandom is kind of a good segue to what I was just talk about the idea of coming together. It's we find some commonality or we want to find something in a story, be it either a TV show, a movie, a comic book, or even just novels and series, and something that really speaks to us on a level that we identify with and want to assimilate or someone put that into our own being, or we try to maybe bring it forth in the world so we can just sort of, I don't know, either we wear the icons that we see or try to bring those characters to life in our own little, fan novels or merchandise we buy just so we can be reminded about them and how they made us think or feel. But it just, to me, it's storytelling, and it's sort of continuing from like the initial concept that planted the seed to bringing it forth in other areas of our lives.
Awesome. And what are you into?
Well, I got a good range of stuff, but at this point, I'll say biggest thing is I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek. That's something that unfortunately seems to attract a lot of folks in the Air Force. That we are just some small things talk to us. You know what? Science fiction just somehow just draws a lot of these people. I've had the privilege of running across, and that's seems to be a universal trend I've run into so far throughout my 6 years of service. So it's been pretty funny seeing that. Like Star Wars, that's a huge thing. Star Trek, that people don't really have that. One's better than the other. They just love it equally out here, it seems. And with that, but Marvel is a pretty solid foundation too, with especially the new cinematic movies been coming out, and it's drawing much more audiences from the casual, just recent comers like myself, or even those that are much more established, from the comics from long ago, and just maintaining that. I think it's just been great to see more of that become more mainstream.
How'd you get into Star Wars? Are you a original like fan of the original trilogy? Were you a prequel person?
No, I was thankfully the original trilogy and the kind where Han shot first. So that was the way it all.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen the ones that were, the re-releases in theater and the changes, and it was like, as a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Oh, if they added some cool 3D thing here, that's fun. But looking back at it now, I really appreciate the classics. Um, I mean, I love that they added more to the story, because granted, I think I have also reservations about the prequel and what they could have done to make it better, but putting all that aside, I can at least appreciate the fact that it expanded things, because I mean, as much as I maybe give the prequel some heat, it led to the Clone Wars animated series, which, I mean, that to me, even though it wasn't a movie, it kept the story going. It filled in a lot of gaps, and it was really enjoyable. And I see a lot more animation everywhere. I mean, I think it just snowballed from the Clone Wars animated series to um, even like Lego. Now they've been doing a lot of stuff too, and it's been like very comical. In fact, I've been surprised by how much little humor I've seen from them. And I know Star Wars humor has been almost done to death. Like there's almost no new joke they could possibly come up with, but somehow Lego, like Droid Tales, not to drop that, like that became the first thing that came to mind. They had little cameos, and little humorous things pop up. Like, wow, I never thought about that. That's really entertaining to see that it's becoming more mainstream. So as an adult, you can appreciate some new things, and for kids, new generation of geeks looking at this, they're just absorbing all that, and they're just they have more so they can have those ties to. So that way, if the people that I've met who, let's say, just grew up with the prequels and they want to see the trilogy, they might think it's a little drier, but hopefully
Hmm.
by being exposed to some of the new stuff, that kind of motivates them to want to go through it so they can actually continue that story as well. But I've been a
Absolutely.
fan of the Star Wars trilogy long ago, and had all the action figures, and I think that was actually one of the first kind of costumes I had my mom actually make, was like Luke Skywalker and the tunic, with the tunic one. But that was actually for Return of the Jedi. I wanted to go see that, so I've never actually gone in costume anywhere other than Halloween. So that was the first time I think I actually did a costume in public with other geeks and stuff. So it was like, okay, it's acceptable. It's nothing odd. So just it just felt right. So I really enjoyed that.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Clone Wars cartoon series. I've spoken about it on a few different episodes, but it's one of those things where it kind of just came out of the blue, and that's what a lot of people wanted from the movies when they're like, "Oh yeah, the Clone Wars is going to be a movie." And then we got what we got in the prequel, but the Clone Wars cartoon series is just phenomenal as far as like the storytelling, the characters, like is
It's
so
rich.
incredible. Yeah. It brings like one of my friends always jokes that it makes you like Anakin Skywalker.
It did. It breathed a lot of depth that unfortunately I wish they could have brought with the movie, but it really fell short. So this really filled in a lot of gaps. So that's why it's great that we as fans can not look at it just as it's either the movie, it's movies make or break, but there's so much thing even the extended universe. I know now that's kind of the can's been thrown out the window officially, but I think those stories are always going to still be there, and it's still going to inspire more people and just add to the flavor of what is a Star Wars universe, whether it be the officially ordained by Lucasfilms or not. So it's
Hmm.
just more things to and to absorb and to uh, I guess enjoy really.
Do you have a favorite character from the Star Wars universe?
I have to admit, I'm kind of a Mary Sue when it comes to all like so the stereotypical. I love the hero characters, especially the ones that are trying to save more people, like or just like I'll say the archetype of like the paladin, they trying to use the light side and all that. So for me, it had to be Luke Skywalker, and also I mean lightsabers are just to me as a kid that was the coolest thing ever. I've always wanted one, and I've since I've become an adult and I'm not paying taxes and I'm not being responsible with my money. I've
Uh-huh.
I actually own about I think 12 or 13 lightsabers just now. Then
Woo.
two of which I have a mix of Ultra Saber and Saber Forge. Different qualities and different things are up and down about them, but it's more the fact that it's getting to sort of jump into that learn that as a kid, I think I would just like the idea if I knew that as a kid, I'd be like, oh my God. But as an adult, I'm like, man, I don't know how many people I can tell this to. But luckily, I found a lot of people I interact with, they get a kick out of it. So I'm really glad to be a geek with a little bit of money to burn.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite color lightsaber?
Um, it's actually, I got out of the ones I have, I can either say, like one that's kind of like Tron blue almost.
Okay.
Get one of those. It's a little more like I can actually fight with that because it's not really ornate or anything, so it's a little more, durable, which I like.
Hmm.
And then blue, green, or yellow. I think it's just something that's not very conventional. You don't see that one, so to me that's just sort of a surprise. But from those three, they're just enjoyable.
That's awesome. I mean, I remember even as a high school student getting the lightsabers because back in when I was in high school they were doing the re-releases
Yeah.
before the prequels, And so tons of merchandise was coming out besides action figures, and my friends and I would buy the lightsabers and then go out and fight with them to
The
the point
FX ones
where,
or the ones with like the collapsible blade?
oh, the collapsible
Oh
blade.
yeah, those are great.
So we tore through probably 4 or 5
Oh,
lightsabers,
of
like
course.
just fighting in a park.
You got to you go big or go home, right? Don't hold your punches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there was a point where I was like, oh, I just gotta, like, I'll keep the hilt to them. But I mean, after moving around for college and stuff, I just had to toss them
Of
and be
course.
like, I'll buy some new ones at some point.
Yeah, and now that you're an adult, you can just sort of like, oh, I guess I can had get my pick of the litter now. What color, what hilt, and everything, sound, or just I don't know. What was your favorite color?
Growing up, it was always blue, but I really like the color diversity that they have
Of
now.
course.
And I saw there was a cosplayer. She goes by Jedi Moon, and she has this really beautiful like pink lightsaber.
Oh, okay.
Because she does a cross between like a Jedi and Sailor Moon,
Oh, cool.
and I like her pink lightsaber is beautiful, and I really like the way that people can just mix and match the colors now. Like you have like the standard blues,
Yeah.
but like you have like the Tron blue,
Hmm.
and like that's an amazing color. Or having a like a richer, deeper like green color. Uh, but I think that's one of the things that they did with the prequel movies was having more than just the blue and the green that you're traditionally used to from the original trilogy. You saw the yellows and the oranges, and Mace Windu had the purple.
Yeah, and there's a lot more diversity, which I mean that's uh, it's just giving fans more things because it's nice when you see that there's more options and that has more meaning, and that's just expanding the story, which I think we all just want. Like I think Star Wars is one of those things where it's it transcends cultures. It's something that's very shared because I mean I think if you show Darth Vader, his mask, a lot of people are going to immediately know what that is, or they'll
Hmm.
identify it, or even lightsabers, or a TIE fighter sound. For some reason, those things just kind of have now become embedded in our culture almost, and just in the media in a lot of different ways, like small little things. Or so it's kind of amazing to see how it's just sort of grown.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you could have a Darth Vader mask or like show a lightsaber, and I would guarantee that almost everyone in the world would be able to at least recognize what you're showing them.
It's yeah, no, that it's going to be a staple. I mean, I wish I could say the same for something like Star Trek. I mean, that's also very iconic too, but I think it's just for different magnitudes.
Hmm.
But it's obviously still holds a place in fandom, geek culture, and the way I look at it, it shouldn't be a matter of at wars versus Trek as much as a celebrate the fact that we all aspire to reach the stars and have adventures in space, and that's we want to be better than what we are right now. That should be the big focus of it.
Do you have a favorite movie out of the movies that are out, or are you more just looking forward to like Rogue One coming out?
I mean, they all had something new to like the whole story. Like that for me, New Hope was always the first movie that set the stage, that built this whole franchise we now get to all enjoy for generations. So that'll never
Hmm.
get replaced. Even though I have to admit, sometimes watching it, it's with new people trying to get them into it. It's like, hey, I know it's a little drawn out sometimes and it's older, but I mean, and some things don't hold up as well as you maybe might remember them. But it's still you have to give it the respect that where it came from. But
Right.
I don't know, I think Empire really that just sort of opened like the ground just opened up and just showed you that this is much more deep. It was like a space opera, literally the whole big reveal, which I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but the whole Skywalker Darth Vader relationship that reveal. If anyone has a spoiler for anyone, then I apologize, but it's been quite a few years, so yeah.
Absolutely.
But just how that just expanded so much. It's not just simple like space shoot 'em up. There's actually just more to it, and it's just expanded more and more. And even now, looking with episodes 7, 8, and 9, we just see that's hopefully just going to add more connections. So for the new generation of kids, this will cement more of the Star Wars fandom for generations to come.
We went a long time between like the prequels and where we're going
Oh
to
yeah.
now, to the point where it almost seems like we're going to be getting a Star Wars movie every year for the foreseeable future.
I'm all right with that. Disney's got the hand. I trust them. They're printing money. They're pretty good with what they do. If they get a franchise, they're gonna take good care of it. I
Absolutely.
think this is a good time to be a geek right now. It's great. It's good for those that are already well embedded and those that are new to it. There's plenty of opportunities just to jump on board and sharing that geekdom with their peers.
Absolutely. And another Disney property that you are into, because Disney owns everything
Of course.
nowadays, is Marvel.
Very much so. Especially for me, it had to be with the new movies that came out. I know superhero movies have been very, on and off. I think what in the '90s with X-Men, they first attempted. It was sort of a something hit and miss,
Hmm.
and Spider-Man was like I think the person that kind of like is stuck, being Spider-Man, of course. But then I think it really what Iron Man. That's when it really just meant that what this isn't just like a flash in the pan. This is a start of something really great. And then that whole Avengers tease, and then it just took off from there. And I've just been a fan ever since then, just wanting more and more of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is bringing forth, and especially love everything about Captain America because that to me, um, I guess I can say I'm very method with how I do my cosplays because I figured I want to be Captain America, but I should probably actually be, become a captain first in the military. Then I can actually say, answer when someone calls me Cap. I will be, and I won't be the head session like, oh, is it me or some other? Like, no, it's that is me.
That's awesome. I was going to ask,
Yes.
what your favorite MCU movies were, but with Captain America, I mean, I did introduce you at the start as being a Captain America cosplayer, uh, so I figured it was Captain America is the trio of movies that you maybe prefer in the MCU over the rest of what's out there.
I mean, I love all the Avenger movies that come together. You see everyone on screen, very dynamic, a lot of characters and a lot of interaction. But I think that my favorite at this point has yet to be dethroned is going to be Captain America: Winter Soldier because of the fact that it kind of takes away from the overpowered, technology that just miraculously fixes everything, or the
Hmm.
um, I don't know, God that has, power oh, of God in his hands, wielding magic and everything else. And you just take, I want to say just a simple quote unquote soldier because, I mean, the guy's clearly jacked up with a whole bunch of government sanctioned, uh, good super drugs that make him powerful and impervious in a lot of ways. He can do amazing things, and he has a shield that defies the laws of physics. But despite all that, he's one of the more down to earth people, barring of course Hawkeye, who's just a super amazing, awesome sharpshooter. But compared to his compatriots, he's kind of the the odd man out, which is kind of saying something for the rest of them. So it's to me that movie was great because it focused just on the cinematic world more so, and that the big reveal and the impact for what it meant for uh, what was to come, and even led to Agents of Shield and that huge reveal. I mean, I was a fan of that show just because it was Marvel, but to me, I wasn't a fan until they got the tie-in to what happened with Winter Soldier. So that's when it actually picked up to me, and really enjoyed you know more of the cinematic universe coming that forth, and then even like the TV show.
Absolutely. I know for me, I always loved Captain America and then Winter Soldier. Those are two of my favorite out of the MCU. Those two and Guardians of the Galaxy because I love the Guardians team uh, because I grew up reading those comics. But I really loved Winter Soldier. It's where I have to think if I like Winter Soldier more than I liked Civil War, but I think Winter Soldier still is going to be one of my is my number one until something else comes out that replaces it, and I don't see anything in the future right now that's going to at this point.
No, I felt kind of the same way. I mean, even Guardians was to me just out of the blue, and unfortunately I didn't know much about Guardians to begin with. When this happened, I didn't have any real expectations, but when it came out, just the casting, the story, the interaction, everything was just spot on. To me, that was the closest run for the closest time that I came to dethroning and Winter Soldier because of me. For the soundtrack alone, from both those, I love the soundtrack from both movies, either classic music, rock that we had from Guardians, or even just like the action kind of dynamic soundtrack and Captain Winter Soldier. Just having like I can listen to both those in my car, and then I'll still either I'll be cruising very nice and slow and just enjoying a nice breeze, easy drive with Guardians, or I got to get somewhere right now. So let's get a Winter Soldier going and just kind of get that intensity on.
Absolutely. And I love the inclusion of Sam Wilson as the Falcon in Winter Soldier.
That was
I
great.
I I've said it on a different episode. I would love to see like Black Widow get a movie and have Sam as like her sidekick and them go do stuff because of their interactions just based on that movie, not to say like what they actually did during Civil War. But I love Sam as like that sidekick of Captain America, like he always had been in the comics, and just getting to see that on the screen was really cool.
Actually, my favorite scene in I mean, there was plenty actually from Civil War, but I really enjoyed when he and Bucky were in that little VW bug, just kind of waiting, and it's like, can you move? No, because this is now the fact you have the two sidekicks of two big Cap fans, and they're just trying to. There's like not they can't share Cap. It's like, no, I'm his friend. No, I'm his friend. It's like, well. And then that's when I would just love to see Agent Coulson just burst out from like the show and just say, "How dare either of you, you pretenders!"
That would be hilarious.
Oh no, that yeah, honestly, I love with Falcon his involvement. That would be great because I mean, even like that's what like Winter Soldier because you took Cap out of the Avengers, you focused just on him again. Kind of like how first Avengers sort of set the whole stage for what the Avengers led to, and more of the whole team building. But it'll be nice to actually see them get more development because even just having him and Ant-Man, that was to me, this I love that interaction with him and Paul Rudd. It was just amazing to see them interacting, and it was just very lighthearted.
Absolutely, it was a nice surprise because I went into Ant-Man with super low
Yeah,
expectations because they changed it from like having it be Hank
of
Pym
course.
to Scott Lang, but I really liked it. But then seeing that whole sequence of events of, oh, what, I thought this was like a warehouse and now it's the Avengers training facility, and then for like Ant-Man to go up against Falcon was just like really fun.
Just kind of legitimize the thing, or it's like, okay, we got our tie-in. This is good now.
Now, do you have any favorites? Because MCU has published or at least put out what they're doing with their movie schedule coming up. Is there anything that you're looking forward to
I think.
of the
Oh,
the releases coming up?
I mean, I'm gonna be. It's hard to pick because I'm gonna be happy just seeing more development from Black Panther. That's gonna be great to see.
Hmm.
Uh, more of Wakanda and all that come forth, especially with Bucky being there now and maybe Cap and even seeing Doctor Strange and how they're gonna tie more Infinity Stones into the whole mess. I don't know. I think Thor. I'd like to see. It could use a little more love, I think, but otherwise, I think we're all just looking forward to the big reveal where everything comes together finally. This whole teasing with Thanos and the Infinity Stones and everything comes together finally with Infinity Wars and then just having all that come to fruition. Now, is it an original? I heard it was no, it's two-part originally. Did they say now it's only one part, or is it still gonna be two parts?
I believe. Okay, I think they've changed. I haven't really looked into it. I
Okay.
know that they changed the names from it being Infinity War Part One and Part
Uh-huh.
Two. I'm not sure what they've gone with. I think the first one's just going to be Infinity War.
Okay.
I don't know if they've renamed the second one yet, so
Hmm.
I'm not too sure what they're doing. I did see, as of today, Vin Diesel came out and said that the Guardians of the Galaxy are definitely going to be in one of those movies, though.
The way I'm looking at this is gonna have to somehow. Well, with all those characters, all those big actors on the screen. I mean, Civil War was already it felt a little crowded. I mean, I loved everything about it, but it just felt like
Hmm.
I wanted to get more time with all the characters, and then instead they kind of were each of them were kind of a cameo to a degree almost. to
Right.
the main characters, but this is where everyone's the main character. So how are you gonna? I don't know how they're gonna possibly contain that many dynamic characters in one screen. So that it makes sense to pad out to two, but it's gonna be a crazy story.
Yeah,
There's,
I know that the Russo brothers came out and said that at last count, I think they had like 64 or 68 named
yeah,
Marvel characters in there. Whether they're like big characters like Cap or Thor, or maybe like smaller supporting characters. Like that's a huge
it
cast
is.
of characters.
Yeah, I mean, how much screen time is each one going to get? How are they going to be integral to the fight? Because can you really have 60? Let's say, how many characters was it? 64 about or 60?
Yeah, I think somewhere about the
If you
60
have,
60
let's say
character
you
mark.
have, okay, let's say it's 60. How do you have 59 characters beat up on one guy? I mean, that's one thing I've noticed with Marvel Cinematic Universe is that, except for Loki, no other villain seems to survive their first movie, or they just seem to they come in and they're a vehicle for the hero to overcome, and then once that they're gone. But Loki's the one that's endured, so he's had a redemption
Right.
story too a little bit. So outside of him, I gotta wonder, is there a possibility with the Infinity Gauntlets, maybe, as Jones, maybe he'll, so bring back some of the old villains from me, so he'll have his own anti-Avengers team to sort of, balance the scales, or I mean, you can do anything with it with the power of all the stones together. So who knows what's gonna happen?
I think, and one of the disappointing things from Civil War was I was disappointed that they got rid of Crossbones so
Oh
quickly
yeah,
because he's such like an integral villain, and it would have been nice to have seen him maybe even show up in Black Panther because I mean Crossbones is just so cool and such a different character as far as bad guys go. But
that seems to be the downside with most Marvel villains, is that you really catch a glimpse of them and they just get snuffed out. It's very, I think maybe they're just thinking more about, what things are kids gonna be more care about? Do they care about the
mhm,
villain, as much, or do they just want to see the hero and focus on that? So if that's the case, I understand that, but I think it's disappointing because it'd be nice to see those villains recur. I mean, I've been watching like the Avengers cartoons that have been like redone like I don't know how many times for the last five
right.
years. Those villains keep on popping up and they can, they're mainstay. And it's kind of like it's kind of nice if they had that element of, not like a campy cartoon where the villain keeps getting away and surviving and, wash rinse repeat, but at least there's a little bit more of they can endure, so you can see more of the development, not just the, you know, black and white, good guy, bad guy, but add a little more depth to it.
I know looking forward to the movies that are coming out besides Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I'm really like psyched
Oh
for,
yeah.
is Thor because I'm interested to see where they're going with it because it's going to be Thor with the Hulk or Bruce Banner um, as this like whatever is going on in Asgard because Loki is pretending to be Odin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really that I think out of the ones that are coming out, that one is the one that I'm most interested in because I loved the first one,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't like Dark World.
Yes, I love that they set up the world and they show you the his progression. It was phenomenal. But then the second one, it felt a little kind of, they just pushed it in there because they needed to continue a story with him, but they could have done more possibly, but it wasn't really given as much due as credit as it could have. But
Right.
so it'll be nice to actually see Thor doing what he does best and actually have a much more story-driven element to it. That's not just. I mean, I feel like even with the Dark Elves, they're brought in and snuffed out immediately as soon as they were. So it's like, well, the threat, it was there, but now it's gone. Oh, okay, we're cool. All right, press ahead. That's like what I just see with most of the villains. It's really disappointing. That's why it's nice to see that at least Loki injured, but yeah, I think now that he just sort of seeing more of a mischief. It's not a villain as much as he's just a little misguided. But don't worry, he just a little genetic. He just committed a little kind of genocide against the Earth. But no, we got it. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you put it that way.
yeah. So it'll be nice to see more development from Thor. But Guardians, I mean, I think that was really just kind of took him out of the blue because I don't know any folks knew much about it beforehand. But compared to the rest of the Marvel, the Avengers characters, but that was a nice out of the blue for me. And I cannot wait to see what they'll come what'll come forth from all this storytelling.
Another fandom that you're into, and we talked about a little bit before we got started, is that you are into Halo, the first-person shooter game.
Yes, that I think it's been like my first. Well, I've had a number of games I've been following as a kid, but I think that I don't know, for some reason that one just stuck with me because it was a very compelling story. I mean, and really, you think about it, it's just if you get rid of the story, it's just dudes in giant power armor jumping, bouncing in the air, just shooting each other with guns. And I mean, part of it that was probably the fun part about it originally is it had that when Xbox was first out, you hook up consoles with your buddies and multiple TVs, and you just have game nights, and you just it's really rewarding when you can kill your friends and they're right there in the same room with you, or they kill you and you can just sort of give them crap for it, and return it immediately like a few seconds later. So that to me was just such it was the height of geek gaming culture, because that was nowadays everyone has their own consoles or they have their own computers, and you can still do LANing and it's still be easy, but it's just people are less inclined to do that, at least from what I've run into, which is unfortunate. I know people still do, but at least most of my friends have kind of, it's more of a passe thing, which is unfortunate because I literally enjoyed that. I love that experience of just going to buddy's house and hooking things up, and we all crowd around the TV and just, we're just shouting at each other and really getting into it. So I love the Halo gameplay that started off, but then the story just kind of grew on me the more I got into it, and the more there's more behind the scenes. And Bungie did a phenomenal job building this story, which originally was just more of a flagship to sort of get people attracted to Xbox. To hey, try this console out, but there's a lot more to it, and it's really taken off, I think. And I love the stories that came out of each game after the next one. They built on the story, and um, I mean, the third one finished it technically in my mind, and then they just trying to pad things out with ODST and Reach, and they definitely added more to it, which I just love it. I mean, I read the novels too because I just want to get engrossed as much as I can because it's really, to me, it was just very compelling. I always want to know more about the characters, not just, you're just some giant, super genetic, modified dude in armor running through and killing aliens, but why are you doing it? What's the setting you're in? How did all this stuff come to fruition? And it's just one of those weird things that I've enjoyed it over the years, but it's really hard to find people that I can say like I'm a Halo fanboy with, but especially nowadays because now it's been Bungie was they I think now the rights for Halo are owned by Microsoft 343, and they've definitely put their own spin on it, which it's for better or worse, it's the official world that it is the Halo story continued, but I feel like they definitely tried to deviate from what I think Bungie kind of laid a pretty solid foundation with, and they had their own spin to it, which I know they kind of have to make it take ownership of it because it's theirs. They have to do that now, but it's still one that I'm like happy to see grow, even though maybe not being on direction I was hoping it would, or I'm still happy to sort of see that story grow. So that's kind of where it gets to like the idea of fandom is that I hope it's just continuing the story. So if something that captivated your interest at some point or some fashion, maybe just because of one small element or the whole overarching story or the journey, whatever have you, but for better or worse, you kind of incorporated that into part of your being, and you want to see that story come to fruition, or just some sense of closure, or just see it, live on in some form or some way. And that's with Bungie, like what their Halo, I loved it, and like Halo Reach was my favorite game out of all of them because it added so much behind the scenes. They built the stage for I think the whole Halo games, and it was a phenomenal story, and I've just been a fan since. So that's something I'm gonna always be, even though I feel like I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot because it doesn't matter what game they release. They could be a really stupid Halo cell phone game that's going to be probably overcharged and it's going to be poorly written and supported, whatever have you. And I'll just say, well, it's got the official Halo logo on it, so I'm compelled. I hate myself for it, but I'm going to do it. I kind of try to be a completionist when I get into something. That's why I like I don't have anything against Whovians whatsoever, but for me, like Doctor Who, it's a huge story. It is a big universe. I remember watched some of the shows when it was on an American Sci-Fi Channel. I think that was the 9th or 10th Doctor, but because I didn't watch like all the beginning of the first Doctors and
Hmm.
everything continued. I kind of felt I feel like it was too big, and I don't want to say like there's only so many franchises you can hold on to, but I think to a degree you really can't like dedicate yourself to so many of them because otherwise you just become completely engulfed in, you know, all these stories. When are you gonna? What's your own story gonna be? Just retelling just absorbing all the other ones, and when do you get to tell yours? When do you get to enjoy your own experiences? So I think it's important. That's why to, in order to maintain the quality of the fandoms you get into, you find the ones that, really they drew you in for your own reasons, not because someone told you or you're kind of convinced, but you innately just spoke to you and it somehow captivated you. So you want to keep on absorbing as much as you can because there's a lot out there, but you can only really take in so much until you get overwhelmed with how much is out there that'll take over your own life, your own story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I always get recommended to watch, like, hey, you should watch, like, especially for a lot of people, Doctor Who.
Yeah,
And I'm the same way. It's one of those things where I would want to go back and watch everything because I want to know the entire story.
yeah,
But I mean, that for that show, that's been on since like the 60s or
yeah,
70s. There's not really a way for me to jump in unless I jump in on the later stuff that's out on
yeah.
Netflix.
It's almost like it's
Uh,
too big. I mean, I know people obviously enjoy it, and it's a great story. I will never diminish its capability or decry its fandom because I mean it's
mhm.
phenomenal. It's inspired a lot of people, and I that to me is like what really these fandoms are. Is if something inspires you and makes you, let's say, want to be better or improve on your own life, that's phenomenal, and that's something that will always be celebrated. But when the ones I think we ourselves hold to ourselves our own identity or what we incorporate into our own sense of who we are, what we love, we're gonna have to be careful with how much we take in because you can only take in so much till you completely kind of lose yourself to that. So like Doctor Who, that would be a great story, but I feel like I appreciate those that love it, but I think I like my science fiction to be a little more either gritty or just kind of I don't know, like whatever Star Wars and Star Trek seem to have. They have their own spread with that, but I like that element that they have because there's a little more of a sense of grounded realism to it.
Right, right. Now, when I introduced you as a Captain America cosplayer. How did you? I mean, you saw the
Mm-hmm.
movie and you said, I wanted to be Captain America. Why?
Well, the first one that the version of Captain America I do is when he rescued Bucky and the other Howling Commandos uh, from Hydra. That was when he was kind of did that USO show that kind of fell flat, and he was wearing that um, little like the stereotypical cartoony version of Cap, where it's like the little
Hmm.
wings and the blue suit and the it's just very vibrant and flamboyant. But then he throws on, some, a leather jacket, some, bandolier straps, and then he grabs one of the USO girl helmets, the one that had the A on it, So
Right.
he kind of, it's he sort of upgraded to like, you know what, okay, I'm still wearing the colors, but now I'm gonna actually test my metal. I'm wearing the clothes that that would be more at home on the front. In World War II and put himself in harm's way for his friend and actually, he accomplished what he set out to do. That to me is like when he really became, he didn't just be, obviously became Captain America once he got the Vita rays and, he transformed, but I don't think it was until he actually did that where he decided, you know what, I'm taking matters in my own hand and doing what's right. And then he really committed to that. And I just saw that costume and I thought, wow, you can see it's Captain. He's got the elements, and he looks very correct for the period, World War II. So it was very modernized, and I love the idea of taking, um, character and trying to modernize it in some way. Like I had a friend who actually also did a Captain America costume, but he called it GWAT, so Global War on Terror Captain America. So it was very modern military camouflage patterns, just all cut and sewn together to where it actually looked like a military uniform. Just the colorization was, with Captain's colors are mostly blue, red and white, and the helmet and everything. And so this to me looked like that was a nice offshoot from like the Captain America from First Avengers in that one. So I just like that, the helmet had a good feel to it. So I went to the World War II recreation website and actually got a World War II helmet because I wanted to be as legitimate as I could. I got a leather jacket, I got a lot of bandoliers and stuff that were from World War II side as well, and I tried to cobble as much stuff together as I could. I might have skimped on maybe just like the pants and boots that I could just find some other stuff that was more casual because those things aren't as visible. But I got other things that kind of compensate, and I feel like I'm happy with what it is right now, and I've had this for the longest. I've added and improved on it, but I'm overall very happy with the costume, and it's been fun to have. I mean, it's not great in the summertime, but I've really enjoyed having a shield, and it's something I built built myself. I got a medieval times shield online, stripped down the paint, painted up myself, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm very pleased with the fact that I kind of even though I've just hobbled together most of like 90% of my costume, I can at least say that I had a hand in building something. So that's why when it comes to props, I like to build what I can so I can have that sense of ownership to it, not just pull stuff together. Because I can't sew. I'm not a full-on fabricator. I'm learning whatever I can from my buddies out there. I got a friend, let's say like back in my hometown, name is Gary Crowell Jr., also known as Beer Props Money. He has his own shop. He's been the most kindest prop guy I've ever run into because he owns the Beer Prop Money because his whole mentality is he's doing this for fun too. And as you pay him in beer money, he's quite happy. Like he doesn't even, that's his whole deal. So he just builds phenomenal things, and he's been newer than I am, but I'm just would go to him all the time I'm in town, and if hey Gary, I want to work on a project, or can I help help me with this, and he's just happy to lend a hand, and like someone like that, so like that keeps me involved in the community because they're people that actually are there for the craftsmanship. That's what I've really come to appreciate and enjoy because I love building things. I love painting things. I mean, I do little Warhammer models too. I've done that for just a long time, so I like all that small scale stuff. But now I like the fact I can try doing that on my own scale because I really like to kind of combine those two things together.
What was your experience like the first time you went to a convention in your full Captain America gear?
Oh yeah, the first time I went, I didn't have all my gear assembled. I think I had maybe improvised different parts. Like I had a World War II Russian helmet, but I painted it blue and just hand painted the A, and I just got some random goggles and improvised a leather jacket. It wasn't nearly close to what I wanted to, but I bought a shield online that came pre-painted and it didn't look it all the way I wanted to, but I broke it out. I took a chance and I went to, I think it was Anime Expo, which to me it's not a big place to go for comic related things, but it was the first convention I've really gone to as a kid, so I just figured, well, I'll just go here. It seems like the place to do it. I don't know any conventions except for this or San Diego, and this is the nearest one, so I'll do that. I was very hesitant at first. I felt very awkward. I felt very like I don't know anyone here. I was trying as hard as I could to find anyone who was also Marvel related, and I think I saw another Captain America guy, and I thought, oh my god, finally. I can't like someone can say, oh my god, hey Captain, yeah, that's so cool. You like Captain, I do too. That's so awesome. But unfortunately, this individual didn't really. I think he might have been there for different reasons. I'm not for the whole fandom thing, or maybe just for trying to find cute girls to do this. Because I admit, like I first got into this thing because I thought, well, I like cute girls in costume. That's an amazing thing. But how to get involved with that? I guess you go in costume there too. But I've gotten more out of being there with, again, just interacting with people that are just as passionate and driven as I am about these franchises. That this is a community. This isn't a dating pool thing. You're just trying to, because there's a lot of that out there. But this is something you can really. I've never felt like my first time I went to a convention, I felt awkward as hell. I felt out of place. I didn't know what to expect. But ever since then, I keep going to conventions, and not to exaggerate, but I feel like a goddamn rock star. Like I feel like this is my element. This is where I'm with people that I'm just ecstatic every time I see someone in a costume. I've never been seen before. I'll say, "Hey, awesome costume!" If I know what it is, I'll comment on who they are, because as cosplayers, we like to be recognized for, like, people see what you're doing and they call me out for that character. So it's like, "Hey, awesome! This version of that character." And if I don't know what it is, I'll say, "I need to ask, what is that character? Because I don't know what, but I'm really curious how you did X, Y, or Z." And then
Right.
just really get involved, because that's something I wish when I first started off, that I had someone who was sort of engaging with me. I found that just through going to multiple conventions, probably the second or third one, I recognized people and said, "Oh, hey, you're the Captain Picard guy. You're the guy that did Sub-Zero. You're the guy that did um, Nightwing." And I just sort of see folks that I just get so familiar with that I kind of became to get acquaintance with those folks. Some of those acquaintances became friends, and it's been phenomenal to I mean, I have to admit, like, outside of college, I didn't really make a lot of friends, and even with the military, the friends I've made, I kind of we come and go. We all have our own obligations. We're all geographically separated, so you just kind of accept that. But that's like the first time outside, like, since college, I've actually managed to find friends that all share some commonality, and I just run into, and it's just amazing to catch up with and share that bond of we're geeks and we really enjoy being geeks, and we're not afraid to wear our stuff in public, and it's just awesome to find people that are just as crazy as we are.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So besides Cap, what costumes do you have?
let's see. Right, I also have a Green Arrow, because I figure you have Marvel, you got to have DC. And I've also got Agent Coulson. That's one that was recommended by another friend of mine, Bernie Bergman, a guy who's a very dynamic individual, a lot of characters. But he recommended, "Hey, you should try Agent Coulson." And I thought, you know what? I'll give it. If I look like him, I guess I give it a go, because I don't want to have to wear wigs or do anything too crazy. I just want to, I kind of felt bad that it's a character all I have to do is buy a suit and some accessories. But when I broke it out and I went to convention with it, people were immediately recognizing me as Coulson, and they were just sort of having a fun time with it. So I, in turn, had fun with it too, where I go up to the Captain cosplayers and I just sort of act all fanboy around them, and they got a kick out of it. And if I saw their Avengers, or Marvel folks, I'd talk to them like, "Hey, have you heard about the Avengers Initiative?" And
That's awesome.
so it's just something they kind of ran with, and it's been real fun. But um, I mean, I also love the fact that I'm at the age of 30, I can pull off 50, 52 or 50, so I can somehow just look like the guy who's actually doing this. It's like it's kind of cool, I guess. I might as well take this is the one upside to looking much older than I really am. What else I got? I'm working on well, like I said, because I'm with the Puerto Rican Mandalorian clan out here, I'm trying to make it my own armor ready for that. So they've been helping me with get my Boba Fett armor ready, and I'm really intently trying to get that finished before I get out of here, hopefully, and get it official. But otherwise, I got a number of things I have in the works, but I think the biggest ones I really have were Green Arrow. I enjoyed the first few seasons of that. Since then, it's kind of gone off the rails a little bit, but I like the initial concept of him. Um, Captain America, and I'm also trying to do my favorite costume of him actually is one that's been kind of a long work in progress. Unfortunately, it's Winter Soldier. I like his stealth suit, because to me, that is the most utilitarian-looking uniform he had. That to me would be almost look right at home on a military base. That it would just, as a military man, I like that fact that it's the uniform looks like it's something that I could wear for my normal duties,
Right.
and so that's something I've been really trying to get made, actually, by commissioning to a few other folks. But admittedly, it's been yeah, I feel like it's it's like one step forward, two steps back almost. With like I've tried to get commissioned by two other folks. The first one, well, I'll put it this way: make sure you vet all your people before you actually look them up. Look them up on someone like the website called the RPF. It stands for Replicas, Props, and Fabrications. They have a great
Okay.
community. It's very involving, but also it highlights people who are kind of blacklisted, as in they might have, taken advantage of people, or they're just known for being con people who don't actually. I don't mean con as in convention, but con as in they will con you out of your money, or give
Right.
you false things. And the first guy I went to, unfortunately, ended up being one of those folks who was actually blacklisted on the site. And it's funny because I was on the site already, but it wasn't until after the fact that, oh my God, this guy has a long thread on already. Oh crap. So
Oh, that sucks.
yeah, the second group I went to was folks that were actually in a Ren fair. I talked with one of the gals who, about my situation, and she said she was willing to do that, but there were actual folks like out in Hollywood at the time that were working on real costume stuff for real things. So a little pricey, but I think they put up more than they can chew with it. So it ended up falling flat in a way that I got about 80% of it correct, but the other 20 was just shy. So we had to find another person, so a third party, and we got it made. But now the challenge we ran into is that apparently some of the parts aren't quite. I'm just going on about this, but basically the whole point of this is I really want to get this costume made, and it's been a long process to get there, but I will be excited when one day I can actually wear my stealth suit. I have the shield, and my favorite thing about the shield, the round shield I have for that is I made it from the RPF. I bought the different components, and I actually painted. I assembled it at home, but then I painted it at my last duty station when I was back at a March Air Reserve base. So when I had after work, I talked with some of the maintainers, especially those involved with the paint shop, because I didn't have an area for painting in my area. So I asked them, like, hey, is it okay if I, can paint this thing here, after work and just leave it in this one area to kind of dry? And they were more than ecstatic to lend a hand, and I was just floored by the support were giving me to show me the right way for painting and for spraying, and they were just enjoying the fact they got to sort of have a hand in it. And I'm really happy that I got that. The Captain America shield that I have now is something I got to say I made on on a military base where I work. So, and made it with other servicemen. So that kind of gives it a little special meaning to me when I hold it.
That's awesome. Now, what would your advice be for people that are interested in getting into cosplaying? Like the first steps that you would say you should do X, Y, or Z if you're interested in starting off?
Well, the first place I always recommend is just look online, see what exactly, what character you like. Understand. It's probably good to understand why, but I mean, people know why they like what they do. But the best thing is then, all right, look online, type in the name of that character, and then cosplay right after that, or costume, and then you'll either find pre-made costumes for them if they're popular characters, or if it's something that's a little more unique, then they can go to websites like the one I just mentioned, the rpf.com, and they'll actually have full-on guides for, I will say, almost every character or prop you can imagine. That'll show you. People talking about how to do it, or they'll be able to point you to people who already have things that are made, and it's going to be a community like that. Or there's niche ones. I mean, if you have a franchise you like, let's say you want to be a stormtrooper, the 501st, they will hook you up. They'll tell you all the ins and outs, how to be an official stormtrooper, how to be one with their groups, how to troop with them. And I mean, with cosplay, it's one of the things where the more folks you interact with that are sharing things and you collaborate, the more awesome it is. I mean, everyone has their own, some people do it for themselves or for other reasons, but I figure, it's really fun to share in that camaraderie with other folks. So there are things out there, but if you can look at those websites, I can show you the step-by-step process of how to do it. Or if you can't, if you go to websites like I just mentioned, then you can actually just type there, hey, I would love to do this character, here's some reference shots. How can I attempt this? And more than likely, people are very happy to help newcomers and give them pointers. Or if you're looking for someone to commission something, then I would first recommend you look at what they already have or what their reputation is, or just ask around. But I would say if you just go to a convention and you see people interact with them, probably the best time to really figure it out, because you can actually see for yourself quality of what they have, ask how they did things. I mean, there's really so many places you can start, but I just recommend the first thing you do is just jump into it. And then the tricky part is once you actually have it made, you just need to, just really take ownership of it and then just break it out and just go to that convention confidently with whatever you have, and understand that it might not be perfect. It might not be the exact way you want it yet, but you're still just getting out there as the first step. And then once you do that, you're more than likely going to be very happy with the results that you get, that you'll just keep coming back for more, because it'll introduce you to more people with more talent, more ways to improve on things, and photographers and people that just you probably won't interact with normally. I mean, I've interacted with so many people that I probably never would have without cosplay, that I'm really glad that I've gotten this opportunity to broaden my social group from a very small niche to a much broader one with, even though we have that one commonality, it's just been great to sort of share that. So when I go to conventions, I feel like I'm always running into familiar faces, and I'm always just trying to say, "Oh man, it's so nice to see you again. Well, how you doing?" Some of those friendships, do carry on outside, but um, it just really depends on the situation and everything else. But it's really amazing that you can get as much out of this as you put into it. You can try to make this a job if you want to, but for me, I never want this to stop being fun. And once it stops being fun, that's probably when I'll stop doing it. But I've just loved it so far, and not only is it just amazing just to do for your own sense of like, this is amazing, I feel great, but it's also cool when you get to really share that joy with other people that have the same franchise as you, and you're sharing the similar costumes. You get to interact, and it's just sort of fun to have that buddy moment, or even just you have kids that go to these things. That to me is the coolest thing ever. That you get to bring this character that they're a fan of to life, and at that moment they can kind of pretend that the heroes or have you exist, and that's just an amazing thing to get to bring forth and really share.
Now, do you have a social media presence at all if people who are listening want to follow you or see your costumes?
I do have, I think I have maybe the big ones, so I guess I have an Instagram. I'm pretty sure Instagram. I can just say Facebook is the easiest way. That's just anything and everything. I'm not too crazy with it because usually active military members we're not too socially online, or not supposed to be, but
right.
My Facebook, you can look at my name, Jonathan Wavell. I'm out there. I think you just do Facebook/JWave, Juliet Whiskey Alpha Victor Echo. So I'm out there, and I'm just happy just to have people interact with. So otherwise, I don't have like a cosplay page or anything like that, because to me, this is all just fun, and I'm loving it.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're out of country, so to speak, and I'm glad that we finally got to hook up after a little bit of back and forth, and with you being active duty, just making the time out for doing a recording with me.
Well, thanks so much for wanting to chat, because again, I love the geek culture. I love doing whatever I can to help contribute to it or perpetuate it, because it's provided so much for me, and I'm just ecstatic to help contribute to it in some way, whatever possible. And thanks for taking the time to talk to me, David. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.